Alright, welcome. So today we have HEL. She has been requested a lot recently since her new skin will be coming out here soon to help motivate people to play HEL and remember that she's actually a god in the game. So let's get into it. I do want to point out a couple things about her abilities that can help you determine what to build for your HEL and you know, reason why would you build a certain item for HEL. So the big thing for HEL is obviously she's a mage that is also a healer that also switches stances between a total of 8 abilities, you know, 6 of them that you actually use, and all of her abilities have a lot of good tools to utilize. A lot of people when they're starting out playing HEL, they might just choose to be just a burst mage HEL, or they might choose to be a strictly support HEL where they just mainly play on the support side looking just to heal. But if you really want to maximize her kit, you definitely want to look for cooldown reduction, so that way you can switch sides between both stances and use all of her abilities really effectively and just maximize the usage out of HEL. So definitely cooldown reduction is a core stat for HEL in order to get the most out of your kit again. And as well as you can look for certain items to help augment your healing, like the Rod of Asclepius to increase your healing by 25%, or you can also look into the Lotus Crown. Once you heal your targets, or your allies rather, you buff everybody, giving them bonus physical and magical protections. So there's a lot of different items you can go into. It just kind of depends on what you're looking to do for your HEL. Some people might, again, just play burst mage, or they might look for heal, or they want to do both. So with that being said, that kind of determines what exactly you're looking to build for your HEL. So let's get into building HEL, starting with Conquest. Now, HEL and Conquest is that too popular in the higher ranks because she does have the disadvantage of having no escapes, and she is extremely, you know, prone to being ganked. So with that being said, she's most often played in the solo lane since you can only get ganked from one side, and solo lane is mostly solo island. Not too many ganks happen there. There's not a whole lot of action, so that's where you most often see HEL. You could play HEL maybe as a support, you know, maybe as a mid laner. The thing about playing her as a mid laner is obviously you can get ganked from both sides and you might have a bad time. So with her being, you know, susceptible to getting ganked quite often, it often leads to HEL players building into either health or protection options. So starting with the solo lane build, you can either go into the Soul Stone paired with a purple pot. For this is a high risk, high reward, looking for a lot of damage, and you can maybe get like an early kill. HEL's damage is actually pretty strong. She does get additional 60 magical power just being in dark stance, as you can see here, up to 60. So in the early stages you have 20, and then you can also, you know, reduce their protections with your dark stance on 2, and also do a lot of damage with your 3. So you can do a lot of damage early on if you do go into the Soulstone Purple Pot. If you don't want to go into that store, you can go into the Vampiric Shroud, looking for that plus 100 health, which is pretty good early on, as well as the extra sustain from your passive on the Vamp Shroud. Or something that's a little bit newer, and they passed maybe a few patches ago, the tier 2 Warlock Sash, which is called the Golden Sash, it's had its price reduced. So with it only being $13.50, you can actually start with this item, and you have enough gold left over to invest in potions. So you can invest into the Golden Sash and build this into the Warlock Sash to get your stacks built up early on, and then you can go into the rest of your build like your boots and Breastplate of Valor. So those are your few different starts that you can go to solo lane. For now, let's just go into a more traditional Vamp Shroud, going right into boots. Now the boots is totally up to you if you want to go into the Shoes of Magi or the Shoes of Focus. Most time, if you go into the Shoes of Magi, after you are full build, you often sell these boots and go back and buy the cooldown reduction boots. Just because later on in the game, cooldown reduction is even more important because you're fighting a lot, and the 10 flat pin doesn't really mean a lot in the late game. So go to either boots of your choosing again. After this point, often in the solo lane, you would often get your defensive item right after your boots. This is the same for, you know, warriors as well. So why you go into the Breastplate of Valor, and the reason being is super cheap for a lot of physical protection. Obviously, you don't need to pick this up if you are fighting a magical god. In that sense, you just pick up like a Bulwark of Hope maybe, into one of those other items, maybe Void Shield if you want to be aggressive. But most of the time you're fighting a physical god in the solo lane. In that case, you just go into Breastplate of Valor for obvious reasons: mana, protections, and a lot of cooldown reduction. So after this point, you can go into a few different options here. If you want to go into a stacking item, you could go into the Book of Thoth. This would enhance your magical power by a lot, and having more magical power also means bigger heals, since it scales off of that. And having more mana just allows you to easily sustain yourself between a lot of healing, and you have a lot of cooldown reduction. And to complement all that cooldown reduction, you have all this mana from Book of Thoth. If you don't want to go into Book of Thoth after your Breastplate of Valor, you could go into the Rod of Asclepius. One of the downsides seen for the Breastplate of Valor is it's a defensive item with no HP, and to boost your HP you can go into the Rod of Asclepius, as well as if you are fighting, let's say, a warrior or a guardian, they're going to pick up a defensive item as well in the solo lane, and traditionally they're going to pick up pestilence against you since it reduces your healing, and it's also it reduces your healing by 25%, and to help just flat out negate that, you can go into the Rod of Asclepius, giving you health, movement speed, and power, and that extra 25%. So if they pick up Pestilence, well, you have Rod of Asclepius to answer for that. And as well as having this extra movement speed means you can be a little bit more slippery. So between Rod of Asclepius, your boots, and on light stance, if you heal yourself, you also gain additional movement speed up to 25%, so that you can be a little bit, slippery with that item. So the choice is up to you. After this point, if you do make the most out of your entire kit, meaning you are switching from damage and healing, and you're specifically looking to do some damage, obviously the Obsidian Shard is your best bet for a pin item. Often you go into your pin item after the item slot, after your Breastplate of Valor, so somewhere around here you would get into your pin item. And the best bet honestly is just the Obsidian Shard, just a lot of burst damage, and allows you can just shred right through enemies' Pestilence or Borlocks or Hopes, things like that. So you can go to Obsidian Shard. Again, if you're looking to be like a pure healer support, then obviously you don't need Obsidian Shard. In that case, you can go into another supportive item. You can maybe look at the Lotus Crown, look into something like that. If not, you can just go into Obsidian Shard if you're looking to make the most out of your HEL kit. After this point, you can go into your Rod of Tahuti. If the game is not, looking to be super long, then you definitely want to get after your pin item. That way you can get a huge burst of magic power. As you can see here, with this build, you only have 210 magical power, so your heals is a little low. Of course, you do have Rod of Asclepius to help that out, but overall, your damage output is not the best, and to spike that up, you just go into Rod of Tahuti. You can sell your starter item mid to late game whenever you feel like you don't need it. You can just sell it to try to afford the Rod of Tahuti, or you can sell it for your last item. It could be whatever you want. If you want to go into that Lotus Crown to be more supportive in the sieging down towers or objectives, go into Lotus Crown. If not, if you're looking to spike up your power even more, even without stacks and the last item book of Thoth, you'll see it will give you a lot of magical power, because at the late game you're level 20, you have mana from your previous items like Breastplate of Valor, and you can see I go from 394 magic power, and you just buy with no stacks, and you're up to almost 600. And this is on the light stance. So if you go to dark stance where you get additional 60 magical power, then you're up to 664. Not too bad, right? So again, some optional items you can go into would be the Lotus Crown. You can go into that. And the same, even if you go into the Warlock Sash as your very first item, your power is not too bad. And between this and a Rod of Asclepius, you do have a good amount of HP. Now, going back for like a casual game mode like Arena or a Clash, obviously you don't need to have all these weird starts. The most part, you can just go straight into your boots of your choosing. Now for Arena, most of the time you're probably looking for the cooldown reduction boots, because you're fighting so often, versus Conquest, it's often like laning phase and then you fight. So no real laning phases in Arena or Clash, so you might look for the Shoots of Focus. Again, it's up to you. And then again, I'd probably just go into the Chronos Pennant, just rush that. Since you can back to base pretty quickly, I don't feel like there's a huge need for a Breastplate of Valor. Again, if you are being focused by a lot of physical gods, then you go into this instead of your Chronos Pennant. So it's up to you which one you need. If you need the more power, Chronos Pennant. If you need the defense, go into your Breastplate of Valor. At this point, for Arena, play more like in a support, honestly, since your team fighting so much. So you can look to rush the Rod of Asclepius or the Lotus Crown. Again, you can also go into the Book of Thoth, since it's still early on, so you can go into Book of Thoth, and then go into the Rod of Asclepius, and then the same, few items. I would say your core items would be cooldown reduction items, and then the Rod of Asclepius and the Rod of Tahuti somewhere in your build. Those three items are pretty much your core. Then again, you can just go into, since Arena is a pretty quick game mode, you might rush into the Rod of Tahuti early on, so that way you can get that nice spike of magical power, and then you can go last item Obsidian. It's all up to you on what you want to really do. Now, as far for like a middle lane build for Conquest, like your trying to be like more of like a mage, I'd probably go ahead and I'll probably link this video and in the description below or on the screen. You can check out the ISIS build video, that or Nox, and those two build videos. It's pretty much a burst mage build, and you just go into something like that if you're looking to be a middle lane HEL, which again I probably wouldn't recommend middle lane HEL unless if you're really good and really experienced and you're not solo queuing, because solo queuing is always a risk. So that pretty much wraps up. As far as relics, it's very important here. So for relics, there's obviously a good counter to HEL, and that is Curse. It reduces your movement speed by 40%, which makes it even easier to lock you down, and as well as reduces your healing by 65% for the duration of 5 seconds. So to directly counter this, you can go into Sprint. This makes you immune to the slow debuff, so you can sprint yourself and gain the extra movement speed. And as well as, don't forget, you do have a Cleanse on your 2, so you can cleanse CCs. So let's say if your sprint's not open and they curse you, then you can use your 2, and you should be able to remove the speed debuff. I'm not sure if you can actually remove the anti-healing. Not sure about that, but just keep in mind that the curse. So to help counter that, you might just invest into a sprint. Again, if you really want to support, then you can go to meditation outside of the assault, and that's pretty much it. So relics are always situational, honestly. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully it was helpful. You can find a few things to help you build for your HEL, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.